Hello, welcome to the Yellow Show. It's the May 2020 lockdown edition with me, James Gordon. I'm joined by Matt Turner, and we're joined by Warrington Town manager Paul Carden. Paul, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule.
No problem. Get me out of gardening. It's not a problem. I'll do as long as you want.
Yeah, well, we'll have a chat about all things. I suppose the first question, I guess, is how are you coping with the sort of change? Well, the lockdown in general, and of course, being away from football, and how does it impact, what you do day to day?
Well, obviously, like most people, the work side of it stopped. So I do different pieces, different bits and pieces with work. Do a bit of work with Adam, my brother, and do some of my own stuff, which involves coaching and education. So all that's just stopped. And the football, that's the first weekend when everything was cancelled, when the Premier League got cancelled and they put Mrs. Brown's Boys on in place of Match of the Day. The thought of that being in place for the whole time, honestly, it was one of them. I thought, oh my God, this can't go on forever. But obviously they've changed that and they've had some good shows on. But I'm really missing the football. I mean, I think the first few weeks of being locked down was okay because you're not used to that. Normally, if the kids are off, you're still at work and different things. But it's just, well, it is what it is. You've got to get on with it, and you've got to do the best you can. And we're fortunate that we've got a nice garden that the kids can play in. But also, I'm unfortunate because I've got to keep maintaining it and doing more with it, and planting flowers and cutting trees. But yeah, so pretty much the same as most people.
I mean, we all love football or whatever, but I suppose for you, it's like being your life since you were like 15, 16, pretty much full time. So that must be difficult for you to adjust to.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last couple of years since I've been at Warrington, I've obviously had to. I've worked and I've worked full time Monday to Friday, and so that element of it I'm used to that change. But not being at football on a Saturday afternoon, and you're in March and you're in April, and just doesn't seem right. But hopefully we come through and we get going again because I think as much as anything, we miss the playing side of it. But there's a lot of people who are fans and supporters and people who work in football who are obviously missing that side of it and the social elements of what it brings. And I think when it comes back, there'll be a lot of enjoyment, and a lot of people will be grateful for it coming back. And I know it's not the be all and end all. I know there's a bigger picture, but everything has a place, and I do think there's a lot of people missing it.
I think now, sorry, James. I think tonight would have been the playoff semi-final if we'd have made it. So is this the time where you think, this is where I miss it more than most, where it's coming down to the crunch?
Well, it is and it isn't, because I mean, I seen it was a year yesterday when we beat South Shields, and I seen all the videos and the photos of that day, and that was obviously a special day, albeit it wasn't what it should have been any other season. But 12 months, it's flown. The time has flown. So I think you're saying it would have been the semi tonight. That's it's madness to think that the season's been and gone, really. To be in it, to be where we are today.
How frustrating is it for you, Paul? Because I you want to move up the football pyramid, just like Warrington Town does, and after last season having that sort of taken away from you, and then this season's being wiped out as well, it must be frustrating for you, in terms of the progression side of things.
Yeah, it is. I think I've said it to you both before. I say to players, just use me to get on. I want you to progress. I don't want to be at this level forever. And that's not a disrespect to the level. That's not a disrespect to the club at all or anyone we play against. It's just about ambition. And if you haven't got ambition in football, then you won't be in the game long. And the problem you've got with that is, when things like this happen and it's out of your control. So you've just got to deal with it the best way you can, and you've got to make sure that when it comes to it, when you get back to work, that you're ready, which is what we'll be. I'm in constant contact with the players through our WhatsApp group, through phoning them. Me and B speak 2 or 3 times a day, along with Adam, along with the chairman. So we're doing as much as we can to make sure we're ready.
It's a weird time because there are some clubs that are sort of trying to get business done. I know it's Baseford. I think they said they've got 14 on contract already for next season. But because no one really knows when we're going to start again, it's hard for you to commit to a player, or even hard for a player to commit to you in some ways.
Yeah, that's the tricky part about it. We've been speaking to the chairman about budgets and stuff like that, and we had a conversation yesterday about potential amounts of money per budget. But like you say, Toby's always based his budget around 40 weeks. But the rumours that are going around, the things that are being said about the league being reduced, it's going to be less, and so does that mean the budget's going to be more, or so there's a lot of things that can go on. I mean, I read that myself last night about the Baseford chairman contacting 14 players, and I'm thinking to myself, and I seen he paid for a few in the last few weeks. I'm thinking that just seems crackers, but he's obviously got the money and he's going for it, so fair play to him. But you just wonder when their contracts start and things like that. Are they going to start on the first game of the season? Are they going to start pre-season? Because I read there was a lot of them contracted through pre-season. So I don't know how that's going to work. But they're having a go. They're being ambitious, and fair play to them. But I think we'll just be sort of quietly cautious on how we go about that type of thing, because we don't want to land up, doing things the wrong way round and hindering ourselves or hindering players, or so we'll just do things as we always do, and we'll do it to the best we can.
You got South Shields have already said they've already sold 500 season tickets as well. I don't understand how you can sell season tickets for a season that you don't know when's going to start or how much you're going to get or whatever.
No, yeah, I've seen that as well. I think they've just obviously put it out there. And see, this is the thing as well. They're selling season tickets at a discounted rate for these early bird season tickets, which a lot of clubs do. But if there's talk about regionalising leagues and stuff like that. So nobody knows how the league is gonna pan out and whether it's going to be split again. Nobody knows these things until listen, the Premier League don't know what they're doing. So, and they've got professors and whoever working for them to sort out this problem. So if they don't know what they're doing, we definitely don't know what we're going to do. So, but clubs have got to do what they've got to do. They've got to do the best for their own.
I think,
and they'll do that.
I think South Shields, I don't know whether they'd put them on sale literally the week before this all happened. So I guess they'd already got them on sale, and then they've carried them on. And I had a chat with the chairman about maybe doing season tickets for us, and the decision was made that we need to hang fire at the moment until you know what's going on, because I think the worst thing that could happen, for Warrington or for some other clubs, is that you get a load of season ticket money in, but then you have to refund it at some point. If the season gets curtailed or whatever, because then it creates a false economy. If we sold 100, 200 season tickets and you had X amount in the pot and then said, right, this is the budget, but then in 3-4 months' time you're faced with having to refund it, everything sort of falls out a little bit. I suppose time's been a bit of a healer. I know the league got a bit of criticism for being called off, early, but I suppose now it's been vindicated by the fact that we're in this situation, and no one really has a clue when it's going to start up again.
No, I mean, obviously being a Liverpool fan, I want the Premier League to be starting up again. And there's a lot of clubs who are near the bottom who could be relegated, who are saying, "Oh no, it can't be done, it can't be this, it can't be that." But everybody's situation will dictate what they want to do. If the season finishing means the likes of Norwich and Villa and Bournemouth, the clubs near the bottom, get another crack at the Premier League when it starts up, or the new season starts up, then they're going to want that more than playing games and potentially relegation. It's like obviously at the top of the league, but I think when our league closed and null and voided everything, there was a bit of criticism about it being null and voided, but there'll never be a scenario in any of this, especially when it comes to football, that everybody is going to be satisfied. There'll be consequences and complaints about teams at the top, like there has been. There'll be complaints if the season starts from the bottom, like I've just said. There'll never be anyone who's satisfied. I mean, I think the club's mid-table. I know a couple of managers in the conference and in the Conference North, and because they've furloughed all their players, all their contracted players, and what their income wasn't covering their outgoings, they're actually being put in a better financial situation for next season because of the fact that they're not paying the wages of the players and they're saving the wages, and they weren't ever going to get anywhere. So, they're probably the ones who want it, null and voided more than anybody.
I mean, it's very difficult. If you were South, I know if you were South Shields and you were 12 points clear at the top, I know Morpeth had a few games in hand on them and could have maybe got within 3 points. But you can sort of understand their massive frustration with it. But then at the same time, the points per game thing isn't something I'm comfortable with particularly.
No, I'm not comfortable with that, just purely and simply because, you're at the stage of the season where there's clubs who have had a go for the first 3-4 months and it's not worked out as planned. And we've, different clubs have played them and they've been tough games. And then all of a sudden, they know they're not going to hit the playoffs. They know they're not going to go down. So they release a few players because they're non-contract and they've reduced the budget. So then you've got that element. But also you've got the element of, at this stage of the season, there's a lot of psychology in the games. There's a lot resting on games. There's a lot riding on players' performances and the pressure of it all. Can players cope with that? So, to give people points without playing games, I think I just don't think you can do that. I don't think that's fair. And there's the element of, I seen someone had put it on the NPL Facebook about the points per game home and away, and all that type of thing, which probably would have been the only way you could do it if you were going to go that route. But I just think points per games, like you talk about more, but there, what did they have? Games left.
They had 6 games in hand on South Shields.
So they've got to fit 6 games in. Plus they had a couple of cup games, didn't they? Like they have a cup final and 2 cup finals. Did they have?
Yeah.
So they've got to play all them games, and there's no way their strongest team, or they're going to be able to put their strongest team out in every one of those games. So their points per game that they've got up to now has been based on being able to play their strongest team each game, and I just don't. I don't think that was right. I think obviously gutted the season finished how it did because we're third again, but I think it was the only way it could be done.
And I mean, I think you've got the legal challenge from the top teams. But if you flipped it round and did the points per game, you're just going to get a legal challenge from a team like Matlock or Grantham or someone like that who would have ended up getting relegated on points per game, basically. So, there's not really much, there's not really much you could there's no, like you say, there's no perfect answer to the problem. I suppose in some ways you must be glad that the last game finished how it did, because, it could have been a miserable 2-0 home defeat to Matlock.
Yeah. It was fun watching the highlights over the weekend of that game. And, God, that was a miserable first half performance, I know that much. But yeah, it was great the way it finished and fitting with Tom getting his goal. But it's been one of those seasons where, for me, performance-wise, we've done enough. And without sounding like, I'm down and what have you over the way we've done, it frustrates me more with, we've been inconsistent, but we've still lost the least amount of games in the division, and we're third in the league, and yet we haven't played anywhere like we know we can. But we've still, as the season finished, we finished third. And that's been, I think from the fans' point of view and from my own point of view, when it comes to sort of picking standout players this season, it hasn't been... last season was difficult because we had so many consistent 8 out of 10 performers. This season, we haven't quite had that, and that's obviously reflected with the results and the performances. And so the big thing for me this season, more than anything, has been frustration in our performances, because, throwing points away, dropping points, I know that can happen, but the amount of times we've done it, that's been infuriating at times. But, as I say, we can't have been all that bad for being where we were.
Yeah, certainly we were never at the height. At no point of the season did we ever hit the heights of last season. I'll talk a little bit about the player, not necessarily about the individual players, but what do you think it was about the recruitment side of things that didn't quite tick this season, in terms of, you kept a lot of players from last season and added maybe 5 or 6, but, as the season went on, pretty much all of them players were cut adrift again. Was that just a case of last season was so good and the unit was so tight that it was difficult to integrate new players?
Yeah, it was, because you look at who left. Robbie stepped up a division.
Wits did as well.
Wits did as well, yeah.
Wits. Hughesy went full time. Trying to think who else we lost.
I think that was it, wasn't it? Is that it?
Marcus Cassani.
Marcus obviously had to take work. So there was players who we lost who were key and played most weeks. Then there's the element of the lads, the senior players getting that bit older. Who we kept and who were mainstays last season. And then this season, we've had to flog Tony. And me, at the beginning of this, for 2/3 of what we played of the season, Tony Gray's being flogged at 30, 35, 36 years of age. And that was shown in Tony. Dave's obviously had his injuries. Tony Mack's had a couple of injuries. And there's only Robbo who's the sort of the older part of the squad, who's maintained every game and not missed training and stuff like that. So there's been a bit of an element of both of the recruitment. We signed good players, but for whatever reason, it doesn't always work. And in seasons gone by, we've signed players and they've come in and it's worked. But we signed Louis, we signed Geno, we signed Scott Sefton, Al Byrne, Chaddy. So these are all good players at this division, this level. But it just didn't work for us for whatever reason. And, I think that's shown how good we were last season because of, the players we had. And also we're getting players from clubs in the summer who have done well in those clubs will come to us and we're expecting better. And if that's the standards that we've set, then it shows how hard we have to work to try and sign players who are going to do what we need them to do to improve us.
I suppose injury didn't help. Obviously, Josh getting injured was that big. That was the big turning point that affected Tony, because you didn't have, Josh to do that job. And then I suppose last season, if say something had happened to Dave Raven, like say you would have had Hughesy or Jay McCartan or someone like that to step in, whereas you perhaps didn't have that this time round.
No, we didn't. I think I was me and Bees were talking, and we were only talking about it yesterday about the goals. Josh really took off. He was sub for the first part of the season. I was on to him all the time over his fitness. Then he got in the side and then he banged a load of goals in. I think he finished with 16, 17 goals.
Yeah, I remember giving him a bit of stick after he scored. Did he score 2 at Farsley away? I think it was.
Yeah.
The one that triggered it.
Yeah, you said he walked past the press box after the game. You said, "Here he is, goal machine." And he didn't stop scoring after that.
Yeah. Well, he scored. He was scoring there every game. But then so we haven't had Josh's goals. We haven't had Jack Dunn's goals. He's only got 1 goal this season. Dylan hasn't scored a goal. Bowen hasn't scored anywhere near the amount of goals he scored last season. So
Jack McCreth as well.
Jack McCreth has sort of come in of late with a few goals, but you're potentially talking between 40 and 50 goals there that we never scored, which we did last season. Again, which tells you we can't have been as bad as we, we're all disappointed. We just haven't hit the heights we did the previous season, and that's players, that's us as a team, us as a management, because we never got the recruitment right, and that's we're always looking to try and be better.
Like you say, that's probably the difference. Them 10, 20 goals might have been the difference between being third and being first. Yeah,
definitely, and also the fact of what you said about the centre back position. I think when Dave finally got his international clearance last season, I don't think there was too many games where Robbo and Dave never played together, and which we had the best defensive record, most clean sheets, or most clean sheets.
Mad run. When Dave, I think from Dave's debut, you didn't concede a goal for about 15 hours or something like that.
Yeah, that was a record and stuff like that. So, but we've played numerous back fours, and we didn't have to do that last season. We've had Tyrone Doofus play, we've had Scott Sefton play centre half, we've had Mitch play centre half. You don't want that, but again, it just, it makes me think, oh, well, we've actually tried to plug gaps at times and we've done okay, but it's the key moments that matter when you've got a settled back line. The late goals being conceded. We could win 1-0 and we could score after 15 minutes and win 1-0 last season and know that we could win 1-0 and be confident in that. But when you've got players who are playing slightly, in the second position, it's not the first choice position, it's the second choice. There's always that element of, Scott Sefton at times looked great at centre half. He'd step out, he looked the part, he's strong, athletic, good on the ball. There was always moments of concentration lapses which were costly, and not just himself, but just being in a unit where he's again playing in that second position. Just so we need to make sure that that's addressed for next season, definitely.
The one bit of recruitment that did stick was Tom Warren. Him coming in. I remember that night at Nantwich when him and Elliot Richards were signed on the day, because they were really down to the bare bones. The impact he had was just remarkable, wasn't it, for such a young lad coming in?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mad one as well with Tom, because I'd only spoke to him on the Monday. I'd done some I'd done some research on him, spoke to a few of the coaches at Everton about him, all spoke well of him. Elliot I knew because he'd been in training with us a couple of weeks. But Tom came in and I was umming and ahhing over starting him, and I just thought, I'll start him. You know, it's a free hit for him. You know, the pitch was good. He was playing against a good team. He was going to be tested. And he came in and he was outstanding. And he had a run of games where there was starting to be a bit of interest in him. And, you know, got wind of it. We put him on a contract and he had a lull, which is always going to happen. You know, he'd been as a full-time player, as a young lad, and but he was only 18. He only turned 19 a few months ago. But I said to him, and you know, it was the truth. This will be the best part of your learning how to play the game, is how to get out of the rut that you're in. Because he wasn't performing well, and he wasn't at the level that he'd or the standard that he'd set. And then he gradually turned the corner. He was coming back good again. He was starting to get looking like the player that he was when he first came in. But he's a great kid, and he's got a chance. I think he's got a good chance if he, you know, he'll come back fit because he's a fit lad, and he'll come back with more knowledge of how to deal with things and more know-how. And you know, he's not daft. He'll have learned a lot. And I said that to him when the season finished. I said, you don't realise how important this period will be for you moving forward. And I think he'll grasp next season. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Me and James were talking on the last show about sort of highlights of the season that never was, as it were, officially. Is there any games that stick out in the mind for you immediately?
I watched your show, and I think you spoke about the Scarborough game.
Yeah.
And they, between the boxes, they were better than us. Although first half we weren't too bad, but second half, you know, it was windy. It was, you know, it was backs to the walls, and we had people dropping into positions. And I think he always gets stick, Bowen. Always gets stick. And I understand why, because I give him a load of stick. But what people don't see him, the people will always remember his mistake and always remember his. But in that game, him and Josh, in the second half, late on, must have won 5 or 6 headers out of the box. And these are your attacking players. These are players who are not supposed to do it in our box, but supposed to do it in the opposition box. And that part of that game really stood out for me. You know, it was something which I'd seen. I'd probably call it a softness in us when I feared the worst, when the ball was going into the box late on in games against anybody. But Scarborough were a big side. They were flying. You know, they recruit good players. They're able to spend decent money on players. And I thought the way we stood in that game, stood up to them, was as, you know, as strong and a resilient performance as we've shown in a long time. Obviously, coming back in the Matlock game as well, you know, the last game, that told a lot about us, because we've done that in previous seasons, but this season it was, you know, are we going to come from being 2 goals down, and when we got the first, I turned to Bees and said, we'll win this game. I said, you watch, we'll win this game, because I'd followed Matlock's results previously, and I'd seen how vulnerable he went when he conceded late goals. And I'd watched an interview with Philo saying how deep they drop when they concede a goal from a winning position. And I just not that I knew, but I just had a feeling that we could go on to win it. So, you know, there was FC away in the cup, in the FA Cup. There was
The one in the league was, I mean, it didn't end very well, but that was an absolutely cracking game. The 4-4.
It was in a game we looked down and out in that game, but then I thought in the second half for long spells we were in control of the game. We were forcing them to do things that they don't normally do. We were picking the ball up. We were using the ball well, and we had chances to do more in that game. We had chances to score more goals, but again, that was the side of us. But that was losing. We lost Dave in that game, didn't we? Where what we just spoke about. But no, there has been some good games. Nantwich away was a good game.
Yeah, Nantwich away was quality.
Nantwich we were disciplined in that. It wasn't free flowing football. It was disciplined. It was we had a game plan and it worked a treat. Dropped off, let their back three have the ball, condensed it so the likes of Casper Hughes and Sean Cook couldn't get on the ball, let their wing backs go high, kept our wide players ahead of their wing backs. So when we did win it, we were down the sides of the centre halves, and their centre halves were trying to switch the play. We kept winning it in midfield, getting it wide, and that, we were causing them all kinds of problems. So that was pleasing tactically, really. And especially having, a left back come in who hadn't even seen the lads before, a young lad. So that was another one that stands out, really.
Yeah. We had the goal of the season, Paul, over the last few days as well, and I think Jack Dunn's against Baseford was a clear winner. It got my vote as well. I think not just the finish, but the way he picked the ball up on the bounce on the halfway and drove at the defence. It's the briefest of glimpses of what he could do, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And he actually, if you look at the goal, he tries to set someone over the top with a pass, and he underhits the pass, and it gets headed back into the middle of the pitch, and he anticipates it, and he's on the front foot, and he steps on. That's where he takes it on his chest and steps forward, and it's one of them where you want to see it from another angle, because it looks like the keeper hasn't tried, or the keeper can't do a thing about it. But you probably only see that from another angle, because the way it dips, and you see the keeper just planted, and he's one of the best keepers in the division. When he came back from injury, he was doing that. He must have been scoring 20, 30 goals a week in training of that type, honestly. So everything he had to go in, we'd have, like Chris, the goalkeeper coach, and they'd be going, you can't do anything about his shots. And you can't, and that again, that's a frustration in itself, because he could be such a good player, and he is such a good player, but he's just not on the pitch enough to showcase what he's got. We see it on a Tuesday or a Thursday night in training, but he should be doing that and scoring goals and getting himself noticed again. But for whatever reason, he just can't set free of the injuries. But hopefully he can this season, and we can get to see more of that.
There was a few people who were surprised at him going to Southport on loan. I mean, what was the rationale behind that?
I'll be honest, a frustration from me, because it was like, no matter what we tried to do, we couldn't get him on the pitch. He was struggling. I've spoke to Jack about it. He was struggling to shake off niggles. He was struggling to put himself in a position to play. And I just felt that maybe a change of scenery, maybe going to a club that I know their training's light. Maybe if he stepped up and done what I know he can do, he'd be able to come back with confidence, and a confidence in his own body that he can sustain football. But it wasn't to be. I think he only I don't think he played. I think he played about half an hour's worth of football. It was a period when there was games getting called off as well, so that didn't help. But you know, he knew I was frustrated, and I knew he was frustrated. But I just wanted him to be more robust. I wanted him to understand that to play at any standard, you've got to know what's coming. You've got to play through those aches and niggles at times, and otherwise you just don't play the games that you want to. And you're a footballer who doesn't play, and he's had too many seasons of being that. You know, we've spoke over the last few weeks about it, and I've told him, and you know, he said one thing I want is promotion with Warrington. So that in itself tells me that, you know, he's got his eye on playing football, because, you know, it's a sad thing that to say that he hasn't played. I don't even think he's played 100 games, and he's 25. But I won't give up on him. I won't give up on him because, I think there's a good lad there. There's a top player there. And if he can just put 50% of a season together in terms of playing every week, he'll move and he'll go on. Because everybody knows his talent higher up, you know, and it's when people who don't know him at our level go, who's the lad you brought on, or who's the 11, who's done, where'd you get him from? And nobody knows he's been to World Cups with the full England squad. Nobody knows he was the next big thing at Liverpool, and he was getting paid good money, and all the managers loved him, and not a lot of people know all these things, and you know, so hopefully we can push the right buttons pre-season and get him right.
Is there that kind of the attitude in the squad generally, you know, of, you know, wanting to finish a job, as it were, because you've come so close to taking it to the next level over the past 3 years?
Yeah, definitely. Josh is another one who talks that way. A couple of messages off Dylan. He's another one who frustrates the life out of me, for his talent and his athleticism. But Bowen is another one. Robbo. All the lads speak in that way, and you know, I think it's pretty obvious, really, because they're not the type of lads who just turn up for the enjoyment of it. They turn up to do something, and whether they play well, whether they play not so well, they still want to achieve. And you know, there's never a case where they take the foot off it and think, oh well, you know, they're not built that way. They're not them type of characters.
I think one of the most pleasing elements for the past few seasons is, you know, in non-league football, you see a large player turnover, and obviously that makes it difficult for fans to sort of engage with the players when it's changing all the time. And you know, I remember one season, I can't remember how many seasons ago, 6-7 seasons ago, we went through 60 players in one season. And I suppose one of the positives under your era, Paul, is that you've been able to keep players, and you mentioned Dylan and Jack there, players that have clearly got ability that you want to stay loyal to, rather than just punting them out after 1 or 2 bad games and bringing in somebody else on more money. Is that unity and building a squad over a period of time something that you've done deliberately, or was it just one of them things that's happened naturally?
Well, I think when you look at my first full season, which we spoke, I've only had 2 full seasons. My first full season, where we got beaten in the playoffs by Grantham, that summer we lost a lot of players. You know, we lost a lot, went higher. We lost obviously Jack Higgins, Will Ayerst, Rory,
Willow, Sean Williams,
Joe Piggott, Willow,
Liam
Goulden. And they were all players who played every game. So from that summer, that was a rebuild. That was a big rebuild, because it was a big hit of players. And then that was when we were able to bring in the likes of Robbo, and obviously we brought Ben in, and we've had Ben this season, and Dave Raven, Jack McCreth. You know, a lot of the players who we've got now we brought in. I think Dylan's the only one. Dylan and Tony Mack have been the only ones who've been with us since I came in, or that season anyway. You know, so listen, I don't want to keep signing players and keep changing players, because it reflects that you never got it right time and time again if you keep changing players. And you know, I know the level dictates that at times, because there's players who you'd have to let go because they've got work commitments, such as Marcus Cassani. You know, I didn't want to lose Marcus, but he got a really good job and he couldn't commit. You know, obviously Geno finished this season with injury, and that's the risk you run of signing players who are older. You know, so I think the squad being settled is something that I want. But obviously at the same time, like Jurgen Klopp, like anybody, if you get a player who's better than the one you've got and you can bring them in and afford them, then that's what your job is.